In a wide valley, about a 2-hour drive from Sarah's house, Sarah stumbled upon a cave. He was curious and decided to explore it. But after traveling 2.5 kilometers inside the cave, he found a strange, glowing object. It was strange, with a transparent glow and hints of what looked like gold, though Sarah couldn't be sure. Restless, she decides to go to an expert in her city. After the expert carefully examined the object, his face became serious. She leaned forward, and what she said was something Sarah will never forget. Sarah's eyes widened as she heard the expert's words. Never in a million years had he expected the object to be like this. He had just handed the strange object he had found in a cave to the expert and told him all about it. He told him that he had found it caught between two rocks at the end of the cave and that he had been struck by its brightness. I had ventured into the cave out of curiosity, as it was the first time I had come across one. The cave was dark and damp, but I didn't care. It was like entering another world. As soon as my eyes got used to the darkness, I noticed a strange glow pulsating at the end of the cave. I followed the blazing light until I ran into a great stone wall. The light was still pulsing, and now it was closer than ever. I turned slowly in the darkness until I noticed where the light had come from. There, in the corner between two large rocks, lay this strange little object, waiting to be picked up. The expert had listened carefully to his story, without taking his eyes off the object. He had held out his hand to Sarah to hand over the object, but she hesitated. She still wasn't sure if she could trust the expert. They had only talked for a few minutes, and Sarah was actually the one who talked the most. I had begun to ask him many questions to establish some kind of bond of trust. It was the first time he owned something that could have any value, and he didn't want it stolen. The expert seemed annoyed at first, but as soon as he realized that she was not going to just hand him the object, he began to cooperate. He answered all their questions with correct and detailed answers. Finally, the delivery of the object seemed good to him, and he did so. The expert eagerly picked up the object and placed it under the microscope almost immediately. It was clear that he couldn't wait to find out more about the object, but as soon as he looked at it better, his face became serious. Sarah knew instantly that something was wrong, judging by the expert's facial expressions. She had asked him to tell her the truth, but he refused at first. He told her that she had to make sure of something, whatever it was. So he went to another room to make a call. Sarah couldn't hear anything he was saying clearly, but the tone of the conversation seemed heated. When he came back into the room, he told Sarah something she would never forget. "Run and don't look back," he said, as he pushed the object into her arms and pulled her toward the back door. Sarah tried to resist, but he told her there was no time. He had to go now. As he opened the back door, she heard the front door open. "Where is he?" Sarah's heart sank, and she jumped quickly out the door. He heard the door close and could only think of running away. He ran as fast as he could, as far as he could. It didn't matter where he went, as long as he got as far away from the expert's lab as possible. The man's words echoed in Sarah's mind as she stopped. He seemed very determined and angry. But why? He was going after the object. That was clear. If not, why would the expert make her leave through the back door in a hurry? It was clear that he knew something he didn't want to tell her. More and more questions ran through Sarah's head as she began to walk home. But as soon as he turned the corner of his street, he stopped and jumped behind a bush. There, right in front of his house, there were two men walking around. They were not conversing as two normal men would. They were waiting for something, or someone. Sarah's heart began to race as she realized that they had to be the same men from the expert's lab. How the hell did they know where he lived? He reached into his pocket and held the object in his hand. It would all have ended if he had given it to men. Sarah sighed. No, there had to be another way. She quickly turned around and ran to her best friend's house. Luckily, there were no men hanging around the street, so he rang the doorbell and walked through the door before it opened fully. Mia, you won't believe what just happened to me. Sarah gasped as she quickly closed the door behind her. I'm being followed by strange men. Mia frowned as she looked worriedly at her best friend. Followed by strange men? What do you mean? Sarah explained everything to Mia, who was listening in amazement. Oh, wow, Sarah, this sounds so surreal. We have to find another expert. I won't be able to sleep without knowing what this strange object is, Mia exclaimed. Sarah nodded. But where do we find one? Finding an expert isn't that hard if you know what you need them for. There are jewelry experts and car experts, but that was it. They had no idea what object it was, so what kind of expert did they need? The expert Sarah went to this morning was a close friend of her father's who happened to be a biology teacher. The soft hum of Mia's laptop filled the room. Let's dive in, Mia commented, opening a new tab and typing quickly. Finding an expert who knows how to handle unusual natural phenomena will not be easy, Sarah reflected, especially after this morning's incident. The two searched through countless names and websites. Each click brought them closer to the mystery of the shiny object. Mia had opened several tabs, each with the profile of a different expert. Dr. Luna, meteorite specialist. No, that's not right. Dr. Rakesh, gemologist. Maybe, Mia thought aloud. Sarah peeked out. And him? Pointing to a geologist named Dr. Benjamin Harold. His profile featured several awards and articles about mysterious geological finds. Their interests were piqued, and they continued reading. Dr. Harold's reviews were glowing. His former clients praised his dedication, while his colleagues highlighted his uncanny ability to solve mysteries. One criticism stands out. When no one could decipher the ancient markings on a rock he had found, Dr. Harold did it in a matter of hours. Sarah looked at Mia, her eyebrows raised. It looks like our best asset. Mia nodded, impressed by the geologist's track record. Sarah's fingers wavered on the keyboard. The memory of the morning expert made her suspicious. What if it turns out to be another dead end? Or worse, what if he's involved with those men? She whispered in an anxious voice. Mia, sensing her friend's anguish, took her by the hand. We will be prudent, but we have to try, Sarah. We're in this together. They exchanged a determined look. Mia wrote an email to Dr. Harold, explaining her situation in broad strokes and requesting an appointment. Pressing send, he leaned back, sighing with a mixture of relief and anticipation. We have taken the step. Let's see how he responds. Sarah nodded, hoping with her heart that Dr. Harold would be the ally they so desperately needed. Mia's phone rang with a determined air. Hi, Ethan, he began. I know it's on short notice, but Sarah and I need a favor. After a pause in which Ethan's skeptical tone was heard, Mia added, We need you to lend us the car. It's crucial. Sarah could hear Ethan's reluctance on the other end. After a deep sigh, he relented. Okay, but you owe me a big one. On Mia's little table were several maps and fluorescent markers. Sarah traced several routes with her fingers, marking possible checkpoints. We have to be unpredictable, Mia reflected. If someone is chasing us, taking the scenic route could throw them off. They outlined some alternative paths, making sure they had options. Safety first, always, Sarah murmured, feeling the weight of her mission. It was dusk, and Sarah was lying in bed, her eyes wide open and her mind racing. Every sound seemed amplified. The creak of floorboards, the rustle of trees outside. Mia, hearing her friend's restless shaking, joined her. "Hey," he whispered, "we'll get out of this one. Remember that together we are stronger." Sarah nodded, comforted by Mia's unwavering spirit. The room was bustling with activity. The backpacks were open and the couple filled them with the essentials: water, snacks, first aid, and some personal souvenirs. Mia double-checked the car's essentials, making sure they had a spare wheel and jumper cables. "We can't leave anything to chance," he said with determination. Sarah nodded, and her determination was strengthened with everything they packed into their suitcase. The world was painted in soft shades of blue and orange as dawn approached. The car, already loaded, was waiting for its passengers. Sarah took a deep breath, savoring the fresh morning air. "Ready?" Mia asked, her hand on the contact. Sarah nodded, a mixture of anxiety and determination on her face. The engine roared, and they set off, with the horizon full of dangers and possibilities. The road seemed clear, the rhythm of the car's engine a comforting hum. But a glance in the rearview mirror made Sarah's heart race. A black car, indescribable but threatening, followed close behind. "Mia," he whispered, pointing. Mia's eyes met Sarah's, and a wordless understanding came between them. They were not alone in this journey. On alert, Mia stepped on the accelerator, increasing the distance between them and the black car. "Hold on," he warned, turning sharply to the left. As the landscape sped forward, they traversed country roads and hidden trails. Each turn was calculated, designed to disorient any pursuer. Sarah squeezed into the seat, trusting Mia's driving prowess. Despite his efforts, the black car persisted, now even more aggressive in its pursuit. The headlights appeared brighter and cast elongated, eerie shadows on the winding road. "They're determined," Mia murmured, gritting her teeth. Sarah could feel the weight of her situation. "We can't let them catch us," he said, his voice full of urgency. Seeing a narrow alley, Mia made a split-second decision. He swerved toward him, and the tires squealed in protest. As the walls closed around them, the black car faltered, giving them a slight advantage. They came out the other side, quickly turned off the car's lights, and hid behind a grove of trees. The black car roared by, momentarily defeated. The two sat in silence, enveloped by the stillness of the early morning. They breathed heavily, and the adrenaline slowly wore off. "It's been too close," Sarah whispered, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Mia reached over and grabbed her friend's hand. "We are safe now," he assured him, "but we have to remain vigilant." Both women realized that the stakes had just risen. Upon entering the geologist's quaint cottage, Sarah and Mia encountered an anxious Dr. Eleanor Rowan. When they discovered the object, Eleanor's eyes widened in amazement. The intricate patterns, the weight, the charm, everything seemed to draw her in. "Fascinating," he whispered, and his fingers delicately ran over its surface. The air was full of suspense. Eleanor ushered them into her study, whose walls were filled with relics and fossils. "Over the years, I have found vestiges of our planet's enigmatic past," he began, in a voice full of reverence. He told stories of shimmering minerals, singing stones, and artifacts that defy explanation. Each story was a testimony to the mysteries of the Earth. As Eleanor deepened her knowledge, it became clear that her object was unique. "I've never seen anything like it," he confessed, holding him to the light. Sarah and Mia exchanged glances, feeling the weight of their discovery. It was not just another geological wonder, but something unparalleled. Eleanor knew that a cursory examination would not be enough. "I'll need more time," he said, grabbing his tools and equipment. He promised to treat her with utmost care, making sure that her integrity remained intact. Sarah and Mia went out into the evening air, with an atmosphere full of expectation. The night seemed longer than usual. Sarah paced around the room they had rented for the night, while Mia tried to distract herself with a book. The unknown was the most difficult. What would Eleanor's analysis reveal? What secrets did the object keep? The questions that hung over them kept them uneasy, waiting for dawn to bring them the answers they sought. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the sleepy city. But Sarah's heart raced when she spotted two familiar figures near Eleanor's laboratory. They were the same men she had seen prowling around her house days before. Their intentions were clear. They were going after the object. "Mia," he whispered urgently, discreetly noting, "Those men, they're here." Mia's brain kicked into gear. "We need a distraction," he said, looking around. Seeing a local market nearby, he quickly bought a bag and filled it with a stone of similar weight. "This will serve as a decoy for us," he said with a wink, "while we make sure the real object is safe." With the bag in her hand, Mia casually walked past the men, making sure they saw her. Sarah, who was acting as a lookout, gave the signal, and Mia ran in the opposite direction of the laboratory. The men took the bait and followed her. Meanwhile, Sarah approached Dr. Eleanor, urging her to secure the object. Squeezing into alleys and zigzagging through the labyrinthine streets of the city, Mia managed to elude her pursuers. He finally got rid of the bag, leaving the men scratching their heads in confusion. Sarah, for her part, barely avoided a face-to-face encounter as she left Eleanor's lab, using her scarf to mask her identity. Gathered in a quiet cafe, Sarah and Mia recap their harrowing adventures. The threat was real, and the stakes were higher than ever. "We need a plan," Mia said with determination. "Whatever this object is, it's more important than we first thought." Sarah nodded, and their shared determination forged an even stronger bond. The sun had begun to go down when Sarah's phone buzzed with an incoming call. Eleanor's voice crackled with excitement. "You have to go back, right now." Without saying anything else, the geologist hung up. Both women exchanged glances, perceiving the seriousness of the call. "It's about time," Mia muttered, and they hurried to the lab. Eleanor's lab was a labyrinth of ancient rocks, fossils, and tools. However, in the midst of the chaos, the object took center stage under a bright spotlight. "I've never seen anything like it," Eleanor began. "In all my years, in all the excavations, there may not be anything like it on this planet." Clearing her throat, Eleanor continued, "Such a singularity. It has a value that cannot be easily quantified." He avoided mentioning specific details, but the insinuation hung in the air. Sarah's eyes widened, and Mia gripped the chair tightly. They hadn't anticipated this level of value. "The men who pursue you," Eleanor began slowly, "probably know, or at least suspect, its significance." Sarah's mind turned to familiar enemies, their lingering shadow, and the danger that lay ahead. Mia's intuition had been right. In effect, they were part of a larger game. They were pawns in a deadly chase for possession. Mia was consumed with wonder, her curiosity burning hotter than ever. Sarah, however, felt the weight of responsibility and the threat that loomed over her. "What have we gotten ourselves into, Mia?" she whispered, her eyes welling with tears. Mia came over and squeezed her hand to reassure her. "We will get out of this," she vowed, "together." The murmurs began in local circles, and then escalated. Someone had leaked the news of the object's existence, and the story spread like wildfire. Coffee shops were buzzing with rumors, internet forums were filled with speculation, and the media was trying to get the exclusive. The growing attention meant Sarah and Mia had to constantly look over their shoulders. The streets that had once been familiar and safe to him were now labyrinths of suspicion. Every corner posed a potential threat, every unknown face a potential pursuer. With backpacks slung over their shoulders, the duo moved quickly, jumping from place to place, always one step ahead, but just barely. Mia, ever the strategist, suggested a bold move. Blend in with the crowd. Instead of hiding in the shadows, they went into a bustling market. The sounds, colors, and uproar provided a perfect cover. Act normal, and they won't be suspicious, Mia whispered. And for a moment, between the fruit stalls and the chatty vendors, they almost felt safe. However, his illusion of safety was shattered one night. Sarah spotted not one, but three distinct groups signaling to each other discreetly. It was no longer just those two men. They were facing an organized group. A shiver ran down Mia's spine. They don't just follow us, Sarah. They are hunting us. His days became a montage of adrenaline-fueled races, hideouts in unexpected places, and last-minute getaways. An old woman's basement, the back room of a toy store, and even under a bridge became her temporary shelters. Every time they thought they had gained distance, a familiar face or a suspicious look reminded them of the danger that lay in wait for them. After several days on the run, Mia came up with an idea. "We need a really safe place," he declared, guiding Sarah to the steps of a prominent bench. With its high walls, security cameras, and reputation for impenetrability, it seemed like the ideal place to hide the object. Sarah nodded. A safe deposit box might be the best option. When they entered the bank, Mia pulled out a fake ID. "Meet Jennifer Smith," he whispered, winking at Sarah. Mia had thought of everything, a pseudonym to further distance herself from the precious find. When the bank employee handed them the keys to the box, Jennifer and Sarah knew the object would be safe, at least for now. However, even with the object secured, Sarah couldn't shake off an instinctive impulse. The cave, where it all began, seemed to call to her. "There's something more to that place," he murmured to Mia one night, his eyes distant but sure. "I think we've missed something." With the geologist in tow, the trio returned to the cave, advancing cautiously. The walls, which were once only rocky surfaces, now looked like ancient canvases filled with cryptic symbols and faded paintings. The geologist's eyes widened, murmuring about civilizations lost in time and unspeakable secrets. By studying the marks, the geologist began to piece together a story. These symbols. They tell a story, one that could be intrinsically linked to the object. As they traced the patterns and debated their meaning, a larger picture began to form. The cave was not just a hiding place, but a historical vault that contained answers about the origin and meaning of the object. The soft whisper of the wind and the chirping of birds contrasted with the tense atmosphere that enveloped the entrance to the cave. When Sarah, Mia, and the geologist came out, they froze. The familiar sinister faces of their pursuers came out to meet them, blocking their way. They realized that they had been followed. One of the men, with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward and stared greedily at the geologist's bag. "You have something we want," he scoffed. Revealing his involvement in the murky world of black market business, he explained his interest. "That object could make us unimaginably rich," he smiled menacingly. The air filled with tension. Mia looked around, assessing the situation. Sarah grabbed onto the geologist's arm, who, in turn, held up her bag. The confrontation seemed eternal, and neither of the two groups was willing to take the first step. The soft growl of an engine in the distance indicated that the men were not alone. With a sinister chuckle, Scarface detailed his plans. "Do you know its real value?" He was not talking about money, but about something deeper, more powerful. He spoke of legends, prophecies, and incomprehensible power, raising the stakes even higher. Sarah and Mia exchanged worried looks. They had discovered more than they expected. Suddenly, the men rushed at them. The geologist protected his bag, while Sarah and Mia tried to defend themselves. But they outnumbered them. Cornered and pressed against the rocky exterior of the cave, it seemed that all hope was lost. The men's laughter echoed, mocking their impending victory. The situation was bleak. Sarah, Mia, and the geologist, his back against the cold cave wall, felt the weight of despair. But then, a distant groan penetrated the air. It got louder, clearly the sound of sirens. The smiles of the pursuers faded, replaced by uncertainty. That distant noise was the lifeline the trio desperately needed. Sirens and blue lights were rapidly approaching. Local security forces, tipped off by a concerned citizen who had observed the men's suspicious behavior near the cave, arrived just in time. The agents burst into the place, interrupting the tense confrontation. The pursuers were quickly stopped, and Sarah, Mia, and the geologist sighed with deep relief. Handcuffed and waiting to be transported, the captured men couldn't help but gloat. "You have no idea of its power," one of them mocked. His words described a vast underground network driven by greed and ambition. The object had been a legend, and they had been on the verge of getting hold of it. Their revelations made Sarah and Mia understand the depth of the danger they had faced. Once the immediate danger was over, the geologist hesitated before finally revealing the truth. "The object," he began by saying, "it is composed mainly of gold." Sarah and Mia realized it. It wasn't just about legends and power. The material value of the object was astronomical. The geologist explained the rarity and importance of such a find, making it clear why so many wanted it. After facing more dangers and emotions than they could have ever imagined, Sarah and Mia made a crucial decision. Instead of keeping the valuable object, they chose to sell it to a research laboratory, which ensured its safe study and prevented further persecution. With the profits, they would get money for their future projects and for the scientific community. Their unexpected adventure was coming to an end, but the memories would last a lifetime. Do you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.